Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is the Easter version of PQTs, and it's 1 minute to 1 on this Good Friday. Yes, I'm back with another video, and for the first time, this is being recorded at my end so that you guys can enjoy it from a YouTube perspective as well. So after PQTs is all said and done, the good people on YouTube will get a version of this as well, which is absolutely lovely. Just part of our trying to add some additional value. Hi, Shaun. I think I've got that right. Sorry if I've gone and butchered that. Hi, how are you doing? Welcome to PQTs. We're just going to let the stream stable. I hope you can see me and hear me all well and good. And we shall get cracking on. Of course, Facebook is doing this in a whole new way now with a whole new live producer interface, which is completely rubbish. But there you go. All right, we're going to get started. So, Shaun, you had a question from memory in the main group. So if you feel like asking it again, absolutely do so. There was a question from Ian Knight as well. Thank you, Paul. It's Easter. I thought I'd liven things up with a bit of the flowery shirt malarkey, and lovely to see you too. Correct, at least you didn't say Sharon. I know that much. I know there's an R in Sharon and there's not an R in Shaun. So I will do my best. What was your question, Shaun? Otherwise, we'll go straight to Ian Knight's question, which was posted before we started recording PQTs this afternoon. And we'll do that right now. So Ian Knight asked a very simple question on the Facebook group. Can a council impose a condition on ground contamination on a prior approval? Now, the simple answer, Ian, is yes, it can. A council can absolutely impose that condition should it choose to do so. And it can because it's related to one of the four decision-making, or one of the decision-making processes for the prior approval. Ground contamination is always one of those decision-making points, okay? So I would be saying, yeah, unfortunately, the council can impose it, and yes, you do have to discharge it. It's becoming more and more common now where councils run out of time on a prior approval to basically impose a condition, impose that restriction, and require it after the effect. It's questionable as to whether or not they have to ask consent for that under the discharge of conditions regulations, under the new conditions regs. But that doesn't take it away. So I would be saying, Ian, to be fair, you do need that approval. Right. What was your question, Shaun? Let's have your question, please. I think it was actually quite a good one, to be fair. I can't, for some reason, Live Producer is so rubbish, and Facebook, seriously, why did you do this to us? All right, why did you do Live Producer? It's absolutely rubbish. But please post your question in the chat again. Go for it. Hi, Ian. Wouldn't the assumption of contamination invalidate the whole purpose of prior approval? Potentially, but only if there is ground contamination that cannot be dealt with through another mechanism. Conditions are dealt with to impose harm, and in all honesty, it's probably dealing with the harm. So I would suggest, Ian, that the conditions dealing with the effect, it's not the most effective way for them to be dealing with it, but they're dealing with it. Right. What do you... Sharon's question was, what do you consider the likelihood if houses will get planning permission to convert into flats? Okay, great question. About 50%, as far as I can find, of all the authorities across the country have policies governing the conversion of houses to flats. Okay, so your first test is to, or your first question is, am I in one of those areas that's got one of these policies? If they have, it will be in their house conversions policy, which you'll find buried inside their local plan, or in the case of Portsmouth, buried inside an SPD. If you have that kind of policy, then you have to just deal with that policy, whatever that policy says. If it's a 150 square meter policy or 140 square meter policy, and that's original floor space, then you have to deal with whatever that policy says. If you don't have that policy, then it falls to other matters, so car parking, cycle bin storage, and whether or not it would unbalance the area. Some policies used to have really draconian measures. So, for example, Borough of Poole, which is down in the south central of the UK, had a policy that said if you're in a road and there are no flats, we will not grant you flats, very simply. So it all comes down, Sharon, to the policy, the rule. And if the rule is there, then you have to follow the rule. If not, then it's down to the other material considerations. Hope that answers your question. It's not a likelihood answer. It's more a case of do a bit of homework. Let's see if we can't get it right. Hope that answers your question. Wow, that's a good set of questions for the first 5 minutes. 55 minutes to go. For those of you watching live on Facebook, thank you very much for joining me. I actually really annoyingly now can't see how many people have joined us. It's really, really annoying because that's how Live Producer does it now. And for those of you catching up, welcome. I don't know why I've gone dark there. For those of you catching up, welcome to the stream on YouTube. Annoyingly, it's all gone dark on the screen. We're just going to have to roll with it, guys. There we go. I might have adjusted that. Okay. More questions, please. Otherwise, this is going to be a very boring Easter version of Planner's Question Time. Just going to shut the old curtains there a little bit, just to help things along. So, questions, please. Lovely to see you all, by the way. It's really nice to have you here with me on PQTs. Any questions at all? No? Are we all quiet? Okay, then. Fine. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in planning at the moment. We've now had a change in regulation allowing for committees to go wholly electric, which is quite interesting. I've no idea how they're going to get some of the committee members up and down the country to go wholly electric. I'm not entirely sure they've discovered what computers are. And for some local authorities, they really haven't discovered much. So we'll see how that pans out. We also had a I'll answer that one in a minute, mate. That's a really good one. We've also had a very, very interesting change to permitted development rights snuck in. Helen, my colleague, reported on this earlier today, and it was in the planner as well, giving, as a result of the COVID-19 times, giving a whole host of new permitted development rights to the healthcare sector. And now those are temporary, they're due to expire at the end of the year. Ian Knight has asked another question. I think this is going to be just me and you, Ian, for the rest of the day, but that's fine. I'll come to that, Shan. Do you think the inspector will think it's an abuse of the COVID-19 times if I use a non-determination appeal? Southampton City Council do not know when the panel will sit again. Yes, no. I think the inspectorate, in all honesty, will probably take a dim view if you haven't made every effort with Southampton City Council to extend a period of time or can't demonstrate that the council has got its act in gear. I think they'll take a dim view on the council if they're just simply turning around and saying, well, this is all impossible, because the view from DCLG is that they should absolutely have their act in gear in, and they should be pragmatic, and the new regulations allow for them to be pragmatic. But I think what you have to do is take the responsible course in order to avoid any argument that you've been unreasonable. And that responsible course would be to make every effort, contact the head of service, express your discomfort or your problem with not going before a committee that you're expecting, and then from there, basically, I would be I'd do a warning letter to the council saying, look, if we don't have anything positive from you, then we'll take this before a non-det. I think you just have to take a reasonable point of view, and if it's C3 to C4 anyway, then I personally would say, look, you're under threat of a non-determination appeal here. You've been told to be pragmatic. What are your intentions? I've done that with a couple of councils already, where they're out of time and entered COVID-19. I've written to them and said, look, what are your intentions? And so have a couple of my clients. Thank you, Ian. That's a good set of questions. Sharon asked, has airspace become PD yet? No. Summer. We're expecting that this summer. Summer in the UK is between roughly July and September. So we're expecting in the summer. Phil Council has jumped in on the stream and asks, hi John, can you advise what needs to be looked at regarding private roads? I qualified out a site some time ago that 5 houses currently on it, looking to build a 6th. Had a planning consultant looked at it a number of years ago, and he told me no more than 5 could be built. Someone else has told me that this was now out of date. Right. The width limitations for roads in the UK are set out in I'll get to you or something. Are set out in Manual for Streets. All right, Manual for Streets is the national document. You're looking at the road geometries. That gives a whole sequence of what road width can be used when. Anything less than 5.5 to 6 metres, i.e. non-adoptable, is only suitable for up to 5 houses. Beyond that, anything greater than 5, you need more than 5.56 metres in order to get double roadway access and a footpath. 2.5 metres per carriageway plus a half metre footpath. I would contact a highway consultant rather than a planning consultant to look at it for you, Phil, because I think that's very much going to be a highways argument. And highway consultants like speaking to other highway consultants because they're nerdy and they speak the same language. Helen, hi! Helen from Devon asks, this is an interesting one I mentioned to you last in the week. A friend who is trying to renovate a holiday let condition has been corresponding with the LPA, who say the removal of the holiday unit will create a new planning unit. But how can it even a holiday let C3 and not C1? They say they will not accept it as a Section 73 app. They insist on a full planning that seems unfair and a misinterpretation of the regs. I would agree, Helen. I think that is a bit of a misinterpretation of the regs. It is a Class C3 use that is limited by condition, not a Class C1 use, unless they are saying it was formerly part of some kind of weird holiday park, right? And then you had a holiday park style use, and therefore you would be creating a new planning use under the Birdall tests. But what I would be saying is, I think they've probably misinterpreted this, and I would persist down the Section 73 and threaten them with a non-determination if they refuse to register the Section 73 app. I think that's appropriate in this case. If in doubt, have a chat to our learned colleague, Matt Jilks at Strings. He should be able to advise, and he is working at the moment. He's given me a lovely piece of advice very recently. I hope that helps. Helen, that was a very interesting one. Thank you very much. All right, we are 13 minutes in. Amazing. To Planners Question Time on Good Friday. Yes, it is PQTs on Good Friday, and I've put on a lovely shirt for you. I hope you appreciate the shirt. It was part of Helen adds, it was part of a large house, some resi and some holiday. Right, okay, so what they might be arguing, or trying to argue, probably badly, is some form of subdivision argument. But I remember you asking me about this one, and it is essentially the last unit inside that block that has a holiday condition on it. The thing for me is, what would actually be the harm? I know planners are bears of little brain, as Keith likes to remind us. Keith Oliver, our co-director. Big shout out to Keith, by the way. He's trying desperately to remain sane whilst at home. I know Keith always says to me, planners are bears a little brain. But what I would be saying is, what is actually the harm in just doing a full planning permission? Because you do wipe away the previous, and essentially the only reason for the full planning permission is to remove a condition. That would still be a Section 73 application, because it's effectively a retrospective anyway, and not a Section 55. That might be the way to do it. I'm doing one similar at the moment up in Bedfordshire for effectively the removal of a personal condition on a stable block so that it can be used commercially. Seems very sensible. Right, good, excellent. 15 minutes in, 45 to go. Planners question time being sent out to you guys live on Facebook only in the Property Expert Community Group by TPX. The only group where you get 100% of TPX's time all of the time. And being recorded for you people as a watchback on YouTube. And that will get published later on today. Hence why I'm reading out the things. What Ian Knight asks, what commercial PD exists relates to adding SPV to big industrial units some way from the highway? What commercial PD exists relating to adding SPV to big industrial units? Do you want to help me out there? Are you talking about solar photovoltaic, Ian? Adding solar to big industrial units. Do you want to help me out there with a little bit of detail, please? Because it is Good Friday and I've already done 3 hours. Right, solar on commercial units. Not one I've looked at in a long time, and you might actually win the award today for the one I have to go home and look. Well, I am home, but go and look it up. It will come under part 7, which is the alterations to commercial, because that's the only place where alterations to commercial exist. But I can't, off the top of my head, remember, because it's very rare that I look at that particular part. But it would be part 7, alterations. And in fact, I'm going to do the rarest thing in the world, which is, whilst on PQTs, I'm going to look at it. I'm not entirely sure there is any, but I remain... Oh, it's a marina. Okay, well, we'll have a look at it. Because it is very, very interesting. And I'm sure it comes onto part soon. Every once in a while, and I'm not going to be anywhere near modest enough to say, I have to look stuff up. Because I can't internalise everything. I'm not superhuman. I'm never going to admit to being superhuman. So I'm going to look it up. So, but the beauty is about being a planner is you know where to look. So Ian's question is about solar on a marina. Now I think this will come under non-domestic extensions or alterations, etc., which is part 7 of Schedule 2 of the General Permitted Development Order. But just looking through the list, I'm not convinced that there is a prescription for that. Let me just zip through the rest of it. It's not that. Unless it lives in the renewable energy part, which is part 14. This is very interesting. So, part 14, the first few bits are all about domestic. Okay, because that's where this all lives now. So the question Ian's asking is about non-domestic. So part 14 class J, I am doing this on the fly. Part 14 class J allows for the installation or alteration of solar equipment on non-domestic premises. I think really important to have a look at this one, Ian, because this is probably where it's going to live for you. Just looking at that then, it allows for solar thermal equipment on a building or other solar equipment on a roof other than a dwelling house or block of flats. Now, it's the development not permitted part that's really, really important. So, yeah, here we are. If it's a pitched roof, it mustn't project more than 0.2 meters beyond the plane. If it's a flat roof, it mustn't be higher than 1 meter above the highest part of the roof, excluding the chimney, etc., etc. No, if it's in 2.3 land, Article 2.3 land, conservation area, etc., can't be installed on a roof that fronts a highway. Not Schedule H monument, not listed building. So the answer to your question, Ian, is... Thank you very much, Dan. The answer to your question, Ian, is yes, you do have some permitted development rights. And they're in, because I've just looked at them, they're in Class J, Part 14, Schedule 2 of the General Permit Development Order. That's specifically for solar photovoltaic, on non-domestic buildings. I hope that helps for you, Ian. Thank you, Darren. Lovely comment, as always. Nice to see you, Mr. Bruin, there. I've gone for the brewer look. It's quite short. And all that we were capable of doing in the back garden with a pair of hedge trimmers. Phil Council asks, when putting access into backland, assuming you have sufficient width, what other things can trip you up regarding disruption? Is it just noise overlooking windows? Anything specific to access when looking for or assessing backland? Okay, right. So when you're punching that access in, there are a few things makes you look younger. Tan said that to me as well, which is a bit odd. I've also trimmed the beard and all the greys come out of it now. Back to Phil. Right, when I've done it before, I've come across a few different issues. So the biggest by a country mile is the visibility display. So when you're dealing with the access, it's getting the visibility display right. Then it's noise from vehicles passing. Okay, so you really want silent walls either side of it, no windows either side of it. If you don't have that, then the next thing on is the need for acoustic screening. That has to be 2 meters high, because the next thing on from that is actually light pollution. And light pollution from vehicles coming home late at night with the main beams on, because of course they're going to be using their main beams driving down their own driveway. So it's those issues of usage rather than anything else. I hope that helps. Phil. Ian, every once in a while I have to look it up. I'm going to admit that. I don't have it all internalised. If I did, I would be like an idiot savant. I would honestly just have some form of illness and I would be very, very ill. Gavin, hi. Emma, hi. Carolyn, hi. Lovely to see you all. Right. We continue with PQTs on this Good Friday. It's been streamed live for you guys in the world of Facebook, and it is being recorded for you guys to watch back on Dave, otherwise known as YouTube. And if you want to watch all of this back, you can do so at the Anti-Guru channel, which is TPX's brand new YouTube channel that is dedicated to all things anti-guru, anti-hype, it's easy. It's not. Right, we continue. Questions, please. Need some questions, otherwise plans question time gets very boring very quickly. No problem, Phil. Happy. Hi, Tanya. Lovely to see you. Tanya, have you finished your painting? Are you relaxing now? My wife has been downstairs whilst I've been upstairs doing video conferencing, etc. Even on this Good Friday, I have my wife downstairs has been glossing because she's got it in for the kitchen walls. Darren says, we spoke this week about converting a store in the boundary of an HMO to a communal area linked by a glass hallway and adding a first floor for a workspace. No surprise, PCC has pulled a funny face, saying it will overlook into back gardens and into the rear gardens of the HMO. Any thoughts? I thought it was just a clever use of the space. And isn't it? Are they whinging, Darren, about the first floor bit? Yeah, are they whinging about the bit of adding the first floor? Because I can't really whinge about the ground floor store. The ground floor store is the ground floor store, so I can only presume they're whinging about the first floor. And if they're whinging about the first floor, then just don't show it as habitable space right now. By all means, put a window in, but use it as storage, because you could just reconfigure that later. I might not have shown them the first floor, because I think if I'd shown them the first floor, they would have turned around and said, well, actually, I don't like it that much. Whereas I would have maybe done that as non-habby space instead, and just been intelligent with how I set it out, rather than just show them farm. I think your easiest workaround, but it's a bit tricky now because you've shown them, is to take off that first floor space. Right. I haven't yet just asked the question. Yeah. Just I would be minded just to take off that first floor space. Don't buy the farm as yet, and just see how they ride with the rest of it. I think the interlink is quite interesting. Are they saying overlooking to back? Yeah, so it is all about that mutual overlooking, isn't it? That sideways overlooking. It's not about the glass link, it's about the mutual, and that's them being. I know they're so old school. It's honestly, dealing with Portsmouth planners is like drawing teeth. Ian asks, new build in Havant Borough Council, I believe, rear of an A1 courtyard, proposing a 3-storey where making the third might be contentious. Would you apply for 2-storey with future proof and look into airspace PD later this year? You see, I'm asked this question a lot, Ian, and the thing is, right, the airspace PD hasn't been properly defined yet. We don't know what that thing is going to look like yet. It's as painful as looking at your haircut. Well, you could always just turn the screen off, Darren. Seriously, it's all we could do with garden shears. New build in HPC. Back to you, Ian. A lot of people are making big assertions and big purchase assumptions based on what the PD right might or might not look like. Okay, and I think that's potentially dangerous. If you can apply as 2-storey with plenty of room in the roof, then you know you can punch upwards anyway, and it's internal. So I would do that rather than anything else. The issue, as far as I can see, is that I think if we're making judgments based on something that hasn't happened yet, I would, if we're relying on a PD to make development work, I would not be relying on that PD right. I've seen that happen before, and it's gone horribly wrong before, especially where people are making purchase decisions. Apply for the 2-storey if you think the 2-storey is safe. Helen, yes, you did. And I did read it. South Suffolk are generously extending payment times for SIL over the period. There's also talk of putting SIL on hold. Do you think this is a realistic approach? To be fair, I don't know. I don't think the government is going to go that far in regulation and say we're going to put SIL on hold to get the country building again. Because if you think about what that money actually does, it's quite important for what it does. I think you need to bear in mind that SIL, the Community Infrastructure Levy, pays for quite a lot, and it doesn't just pay for the Lord Mayor's car. So if they did do that, I think they'd have a lot of councils crying foul, and we may very well see a repeat of the Reading and West Berkshire High Court case, with councils turning around to the courts and saying, and going litigious and saying to courts, look, we need that money. That money's vital for us right now. So I don't think putting SIL on hold is reasonable. Extending payment times for SIL is very reasonable and already encompassed within the SIL regulations as far as payment schedules are concerned. But I don't think the other way will get past the High Court. Cool. Half an hour of questions have been and gone. We've had many comments. Thank you so much for joining me on this Good Friday. It's lovely seeing you all. And let's see if we can get any more questions out there into the real world. I'd love to see some questions from you guys. Please. Let's have some more interaction. That's kind of why we do this. That's kind of why we brought it back. A, to support you guys as property developers during this COVID-19 thing. Now we're all in the United Kingdom of COVID land. And B, to keep the interaction going, because development is one of those things where you are... Come to that in a minute, Andrew. Development is one of those things where you're very isolated and alone, and this is one of those solutions that we can use. Right. Andrew Carter asked, a grain tower for sale, 1.9 million, worthwhile development, question mark. Answer, maybe. Tell me more about it, mate. Is it listed? Is it in a town? Is it in the countryside? What are the first principles? Have you got a road to it? Have you got some form of mode to convert it? Is it a concrete grain tower? Is it made of brick? Is it made of wood? Help me out. Phil, can you explain some established use applications? Do you have any tips on when I tried previously? I struggled to get the information required from the council. Has this got even harder now with GDPR? Is it EUCs or existing use, established use applications were brought in simply to provide an immunity from enforcement action? That's all they did. It's basically